Congratulations, you got a $5,000 raise last year. So why does your bank account still look the same? Here's the problem. You're measuring your financial success with the wrong number. Everyone talks about salary, but a salary alone lies to you. There's only one number that actually tells you if you're winning with money, and it's probably higher than you think. Once you know that number, it changes everything. That number is your net worth. And once you understand why it matters more than your paycheck, you'll see exactly why you feel broke, even when you're making more money than ever. Let me explain why this happens.
Have you ever heard of the income illusion? If you are like most people, income feels like it should be the ultimate measure of financial success. The higher the number, the better you're doing, right? But in today's economy, that logic breaks down completely. Let me show you what I mean. Take two people, both 30 years old. Sarah makes $90,000 a year as a marketing manager. She drives a new car, lives in a nice apartment, and always has the latest gadgets. The second person, Mike, only makes $55,000 as a teacher. He drives a used Honda, rents a modest place, and rarely buys anything expensive. Let me ask you a question. Who do you think is winning financially? Most people would say Sarah. She makes over 60% more money. But here's what her salary numbers don't tell you. Sarah has $40,000 in student loans, $15,000 in credit card debt, and a car payment of $600 a month. After taxes and expenses, she saves maybe $200 a month. However, Mike, on the other hand, has paid off his student loans early. He has no credit card debt and saves $800 every month. Mike has been regularly investing in his retirement account for 8 years. Well, guess what? Sarah's net worth is negative $20,000. Mike's net worth is positive $60,000. So who's actually ahead? This is exactly the same as judging a company by its revenue instead of its profit. A company can bring in millions, but still lose money every month. Like a company, your salary is your revenue. Your net worth is your profit. But we're psychologically wired to focus on monthly cash flow because that's how we pay the bills. Let's be honest. When you get a raise, you feel richer because you see more money hitting your account each month. The problem is that there are three financial forces that immediately start eating away at that increase. Those forces are taxes, inflation, and lifestyle creep. Let's take a quick look at each of these forces. First, taxes take a bigger bite. That $5,000 raise, after federal and state taxes, it's maybe $3,000 in your pocket. Then inflation kicks in. If inflation is running at 4%, your cost of living just went up by $2,000 if you spend $50,000 a year. Now your raise is worth $1,000. Finally, lifestyle creep finishes the job. You celebrate the raise by upgrading your apartment, buying a nicer car. We're just spending more on restaurants and entertainment. Before you know it, that entire raise is gone. This is why people making six figures can still feel broke. They're focused on the wrong metric. Income is what flows through your financial life. Wealth is what sticks around. Think about it this way. If you lost your job tomorrow, how long could you survive? That's not determined by your salary. It's determined by how much you've actually kept and accumulated over time. The wealthy understand this distinction. They know that a high income is just a tool for building wealth, not wealth itself. You can make $200,000 a year and still be living paycheck to paycheck if you're spending $205,000. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people dramatically underestimate their actual net worth because they're comparing themselves to the wrong benchmarks. They see social media posts about people buying houses or taking expensive vacations and assume everyone else is doing better financially. What they don't realize is that much of what looks like financial success is actually just debt, disguised as wealth. Let that sink in for a minute. That friend posting pictures from their European vacation, they might have put the whole trip on credit cards. The coworker who bought a new BMW, they're probably making payments for the next 4 years or more. Here's what you understand going forward.
Real wealth is invisible and silent. It sits in investment accounts, retirement funds, and within equity that doesn't show up in Instagram posts. Here is a hidden truth. The person over there who looks like they're struggling financially might actually be building serious wealth behind the scenes, in silence. This is why net worth is the only number that matters. It cuts through all the noise and tells you exactly where you stand financially. Not where you appear to stand, not where you feel like you stand, but where you actually stand.
Now let's discuss your net worth, which is your real financial score, and the most important number you should know. So, what exactly is net worth? It's actually pretty simple. Take everything you own, subtract everything you owe, and that's your net worth. Assets minus liabilities equals your real financial score. But let's break this down with actual numbers so you can see how it works. Say you have $10,000 in your checking account, $15,000 in a retirement account, and your car is worth $12,000. That's $37,000 in assets. Now, for the liabilities. You owe $8,000 on your car loan, $25,000 in student loans, and $3,000 on credit cards. That's $36,000 in debt. Your net worth? $37,000 minus $36,000 equals $1,000. Not impressive, but it's positive. You're technically ahead of the game, and now that you understand the rules to the game, you are in a better position to start winning at a higher level. Here's what counts as assets. Cash in your bank accounts, obviously, your retirement accounts like your 401k and IRA, investment accounts with stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, real estate you own, including your primary residence. Even your car has value, even though it's depreciating. Some people get confused about what counts as real assets. Your expensive watch collection? That's an asset, but it's not liquid, and it might not hold its value. Your designer clothes? Probably worth almost nothing.
Now, have you ever heard of the great wealth transfer? It's important to understand. Now, here's where the net worth conversation gets really interesting. There's something happening in America right now that's completely warping how we think about normal financial success. It's called the great wealth transfer, and it's making everyone feel like they're falling behind when they're actually doing fine. Baby boomers control $83 trillion in wealth. That's trillion with a T. To put that in perspective, that's more than 3 times the entire U.S. GDP. And here's the kicker. Most of that money is about to change hands over the next 20 years as boomers pass away. But here's what nobody talks about. This wealth isn't spread evenly, not even close. For example, when you see your friends buying houses in cash or starting businesses without taking loans, there's a good chance inherited money is involved. That's great for them, but that's also creating a completely false picture of what normal financial progress looks like for you, the average person. Let's look closer because the data tells the real story. 94% of wealthy baby boomers plan to leave money to their kids. Sounds great, right? But only 44% of average households plan to leave anything substantial. The hard truth is that the median inheritance in America is effectively 0 for most families. This means you're competing in 2 completely different games without realizing it. There's the earned wealth game, where you build net worth from your salary and smart financial decisions. Then there's the inherited wealth game, where people get a head start that can be worth decades of normal saving. When someone in their 30s buys a $400,000 house with a huge down payment, you assume they're just better at money than you are. But what if their grandparents left them $50,000? Or their parents helped with the down payment? Suddenly, their financial success looks a lot less impressive. Concentration is even more extreme at the top. The wealthiest 10% of baby boomers control 2/3 of all the wealth that's being transferred. So a small group of families is about to inherit massive amounts of money, while everyone else gets little to nothing. This creates what economists call wealth distortion. You're measuring your earned net worth against people who inherited theirs. And that's like comparing your marathon time to someone who started the race 10 miles ahead of you. Let me give you a concrete example. 2 people, Both 28 years old, both making $70,000 a year. Person A has a net worth of $15,000 after 5 years of working. Person B has a net worth of $100,000. Who's the better money manager? Most people would say person B. But what if person A started with student loans and built that $15,000 from scratch? And person B got $60,000 from their grandmother, plus got help with college expenses. Now, person A actually looks like the financial genius. This is happening everywhere, and it's invisible. People don't post on social media about their inheritance. They don't mention the family help when they buy their first house. They just look successful, and everyone else feels inadequate. The psychological impact is huge. You see people your age hitting financial milestones that seem impossible on your salary, so you assume you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're just playing a different game with different rules. Here's what makes this even more complicated. The people receiving these transfers often don't realize how much it's helping them. If your parents paid for college, that's potentially a $40,000 head start. If they helped you with your first car, your wedding, or your house down payment, those advantages compound over time. Meanwhile, if you're building wealth entirely from earned income, every dollar in your net worth represents real financial discipline. You made trade-offs. You saved instead of spending. You invested instead of consuming. That $15,000 you accumulated, that's pure financial skill. But the inherited wealth game is accelerating. Real estate prices have been driven up partly by cash buyers who got family help. Investment accounts are being boosted by generational transfers. Even small businesses are being started with family money that doesn't show up in any loan applications. This means the gap between earned wealth and inherited wealth is getting wider every year. And social media makes it worse because you only see the results, not the source. Someone posts about their new house, their investment portfolio, or their business success. You don't see the family money that made it possible. The result? People with perfectly normal, healthy financial progress feel like failures. They're building net worth at a reasonable pace, but they're comparing themselves to people who had massive head starts. This is why understanding your real benchmark matters so much. If you're building wealth from earned income, you need to compare yourself to other people doing the same thing. Not to people who inherited money, not to people who got family help, but to people who started where you started.